With this rally back up, we've seen the Bitcoin trend turn back to bullish with the rebound back up there on Friday. Now we're seeing the rally shift us back into a risk-on environment. We were in risk-off, seeing the risk line turn back to green. That's going to form a lot of divergences on indicators, and I think we'll get a higher low here with risk-on. We've already had the divergence indicators with Bitcoin giving it the sell-off. Well, risk-on didn't move to a new low. It also diverged. And now, again, back into risk-on. So I think the rally resumes, but then I think you get the larger divergences and triple divergences on indicators. Now, Bitcoin is up over 2%. The Bitcoin futures and IBIT ETF up even more than that, up over 3%, because we had that Bitcoin rally over the weekend when they were closed. So again, I continue to believe that we're on our way up to this 114,000 area, these highs pointing to the next high, and I think you're going to get this large divergence on the RSI and on the awesome oscillators I've talked about with the IBIT ETF and the Bitcoin futures. I think we'll see the RSI still go higher. We'll reach this area in the next few days. I think you could see a peak this week, next week. This divergence is complete. I think you'll end up moving to a new high. Maybe before the weekends, maybe on into next week. I think you'll get the bigger pullback towards the 200, the black line right there, towards the 100 period moving average, which is rising back up. Bearish divergences gave us a sell-off in December, and at the January peak, the same thing. These bearish divergences mark these tops, which I think are pointing to the next high. We had the double bottom with the bullish divergence. I think we're going to get a bearish divergence at this peak when it's done, and then you get your larger pullback and dash all hopes. In the stochastic recycle back up above 50 now. The MACD is still holding in positive territory, but yet still bearish. I think the MACD will end up turning back up eventually, and you'll get this larger divergence on the MACD as well. Almost had a Class B divergence there on the RSI and the MACD at a recent high there, with really two peaks at extremes, price moving higher. I think you get this divergence. I think that will complete in the next few days. So I believe before the weekends or on into next week with the Fed. I told you we had a bull flag going into the 50 period moving average. We've seen that break out over the weekend here, and we're now seeing this 2+% rally. I think we're headed to that trend line, as I've been saying, unless it unfolds in an A, B, C type of a move right here with the lower high sitting up. I think that is less likely. I think we're going to move to a higher high, but then I think we'll peak. And again, we had the breakout. You see this dotted red line? This is the peak at 109,000, and we broke above it. Heard and the moon boys, it's a breakout, it's a break. And what happens? We sell off, and we go back to 100,000 for a test. When we come up here, we're going to end up forming divergences on the RSI and the awesome oscillator, and they're going to go, here it is, here's the breakout, and we'll probably get a bigger pullback to dash their hopes even further. Third gets extremely bullish at tops back over here in December and January. They love to buy tops, and they love to panic sell at bottoms. That's what they do. I was calling the bottom. Signals had correctly called the very day of the bottom, April 7th, signals on April 7th, 8th, and 9th, even called correctly the bottom over here, and over here, those were just counter trends. But this, it called the bottom, and then we actually had a break of the downward trend, a break of the overhead resistance for the double bottom, confirming it, getting back above our 200 period moving average. When I called the bottom, third, extremely bearish, believing we were going to crash. I called the bottom and predicted this rally. Now that we had the rally and we're coming up here, they don't believe Bitcoin can go down. Oh, down here, they couldn't believe it could go back up. Here, they don't believe it can go back down. But that's what the herd does. So I think you're going to have this bull flag play out, take us to a new high, and then pull back. And again, 114 to 116,000. We could overthrow the trend line a little bit, but I think you're going to peak right in here, get that bigger pullback. On Sunday, we completed the 13 count. We completed it here on the, here I have up the all-time history index for Bitcoin. Some of the exchanges mark the 13 count on Sunday. Other exchanges are marking it today. There are slight discrepancies between the different exchanges. That's why. And I'll explain that in just a second. 13 count now completed or is completing on some of the exchanges today. We had a 13 count over here mark the top. The 9 count marked the top. Over here we got a 13 count. We still went lower. I think you're going to see the 13 count complete and still go higher than top out. What is the 13 count telling us? It's telling us price is getting tired. Like your phone. Sometimes the 13 count shows up, plays out immediately. You know, you get your phone, you go to use it, the battery's low, it dies immediately on you. And that's kind of like when we have a 13 count or a 9 count that plays out immediately. Other times, like this 13 count, you know, you get your phone, forgot to charge it, you go to use it, but there's just a little bit of power left in it before it dies, and that's what this kind of move is. You get a 13 count, there's just a little bit of power left in it before 13 count completes. And that is likely going to be the case here, where we got the 13 count, but we're going to go just a little bit higher, and then it's going to die. It's going to lose the power. I think we have something like what we had similar to this double bottom pattern, the second low that took out this low. I think we'll move slightly higher the trend line or just overthrow the trend line. There's just a little bit of power left, but it's running out of energy like your phone would be. I think that's why we have these delayed reactions sometimes, the 13 countdown sell signal. So I think you've got the 13 going on here. I do think you'll have a new high being reached. This is what I think is going on. Then I think you get the inverse head and shoulders, and this would measure to more than 150,000, 114,000. Then it's going to measure up to the 155, 156,000 area. Minimum objective target for the inverse head and shoulders pattern. I think it will end up going higher. If we come up here, you're going to have a bunch of people saying double top or triple top, you know, and it will give us a pullback, but then I still think we're going to go to new highs. I think you have an inverse head and shoulders rather than a double or a triple top. Now, about the 13 count, why did some of the counts form on Sunday? Why are some forming today? Well, for the 13 count bar to complete, and I wrote it down here so you can see this. In order to have a valid sell signal for the 13 countdown to complete, its high has to be greater or equal to the closing price of bar 8 in the countdown phase. You got to have two sets of criteria being met. You got to be above bar 8's close or equal to it, to be above the bar from 2 bars ago. If I bring this up close, you can see that we had the 12 bar up here at the high. The count right below, do you see the 12 right there? That's the 12 count, okay? After we completed the 9 count over here, we started the countdown. We had interruptions, but we started with bar 1. If I just bring this up, you can see it right after the 9 count. It was not a perfected signal, but we did get a trend extension. It's probably not finished. Trend extension is probably not finished. We began bar 1 and 2, and then we had interruptions, and then more interruptions, and we got to bar 7, and we stalled again, and then we got up to bar 12, and we've stalled again, and we've had this correction back to the green line, the 50-period moving average. I've marked right here, you see this black dotted line? That is the close of bar 8. Do you see bar 8 right there? You got to be able to be at that closing level, just above it or equal to it at the intraday high, plus be above the bar from 2 bars ago. We met the criteria here, but on some exchanges, it did not reach that closing level bar 8. And that's why you're getting it on some of them today. We are getting with this 2% rally here. You are above that bar 8. Criteria on some exchanges is being met today. On some of them, it was met on Sunday, like you see right here. But I still think we overthrow this 13 area, which we are doing right now, and some are getting it today. I still think we go higher and go above this high, but then I think we peak. I'm wrong about that. We've already peaked. Then the larger correction for the right shoulder is already underway. We would have to stop making new highs. I think it's more likely we set up divergences on the RSI and the Awesome Oscillator. Here's some examples. Here's Coinbase, Bitcoin on Coinbase. We got the 13 count on Sunday. It moved on Coinbase just above the close of bar 8 over here. Bring it up close, you can see that we were just slightly above that area. I've marked it with this red line. So you got the 13 count yesterday with the Bitcoin price on the Coinbase exchange. Binance, you're getting the 13 count today. You didn't quite reach that level. You were just shy of it here on the Binance exchange. The close, I should say, from bar 8. So you have to be equal to or above that closing price on bar 8, validated as a trend. And we're getting that move today. So you're getting the 13 count today. We are well above bar 8 now with this rally today on Monday, but we're just shy of that level there on the Sunday close. So some of the counts are showing up today with the 13 count. Others got it on Sunday, depending on which exchange you look at. Regardless, we're getting the 13 count. It's showing price exhaustion. I think you'll make a new high in all likelihood, and I think you'll pull back, end up pulling back to these 200 period moving averages. I think that will take us back below 100,000 on Bitcoin. Here it is with Bitcoin with Bitstamp. Again, getting the 13 count today. So some got it Sunday, some are getting it today. Regardless, I think you're going to complete the 13 count and go up to that trend line, and then you get your pullback again. I want to continue to point out with the breakout that we had, we stalled right at the 61.8 Fibonacci. 61.8 Fibonacci, I marked it right here, from the previous advance. We could overthrow this level, the trend line, and stall anywhere in this area, which is the golden pocket between the 61.8 Fibonacci and 78.6 Fibonacci extensions of the previous advance. So that's why I say we could go, 115, 116. You could go all the way to the 78.6 Fibonacci at 121,000. I don't think we make it that high. I think you'll more than likely stall 114, 115, 116, somewhere in that neighborhood. 114 at the trend line or just slightly above it, and then I think you get the bigger pullback. But I'm open-minded to the rally going as high as 121,000. I don't think it's going to be able to make it. I'm just telling you what I think. Just quickly, the awesome oscillator here in the daily time frame, it went negative with Bitcoin. We didn't see that happen with the IBIT ETF or with futures that I've been talking about, and you'll see in this. Please support the channel with the link directly below. That allows me to be able to provide you this information. If you follow the link, it'll take you to a secured site and you can donate any amount you want or make it a recurring donation. If you could take a moment to do that, I would really appreciate it. I don't have any sponsors. I turn all those offers down. These exchanges, they want you to come over to them and get you all leveraged up to wipe you out. And there's other shady deals on the internet. I just don't want to do it. That's how most YouTube channels make their money. So ask that if you like my charts, you like my indicators, if you take a moment and partner with me. It's a lot of time and effort to do this. Let me know that you want this information, that you like this information by supporting the channel today. If you could take a moment to do that, I would deeply appreciate it. Thank you for your consideration for that. At the end of the video, I'll be sharing with you my amazing indicators. Have important things to talk about, though. The sequence counts, the Elliott wave count. Here, again, I think that we're seeing triple divergence is set up on a lot of indicators. We have the divergence here, give us a sell-off. The divergence here, really back over here, this multiple point right here. But now we're going back into positive territory. So I think you're going to get another lower high on these indicators, and I think that will complete the wave one top. Have briefly turned bearish, and we lost the area here. The bars turned red, and we went into the negative portion of the cloud, and now it's turning back to bullish. You get a big bump higher to new highs, complete another reference point of a divergence, and then I think Bitcoin tops and gets a bigger pullback. Now everything's playing out as expected. Well, I told you to expect another move back up to test the highs. This is Bitcoin futures, to be watching for a divergence to set up with Bitcoin futures and the IBIT ETF and get another reference point of a divergence on the Bitcoin price. Here with the Bitcoin futures, we have a really good example of a divergence back over here. Again, you had this multiple point divergence develop back over here. I think you're going to see something very similar to that. I think you turn up here up into the trend line near 114,000, maybe 116,000, 115,000, throwing that level just a little bit, but somewhere probably between 114,000 to 116,000. I think we get a bigger pullback. That rally to a new high, slightly above 112,000, will form this divergence, give us that bigger pullback, and dash hopes further. Told you to be watching for a bullish reversal of conditions. We're now trying to get that. It won't be final until the close. We're getting a blue bar. We're pushing back above the upper boundary of the cloud. So we're flipping back to a bullish reversal of conditions. We don't have any green bars yet, but we're still in positive territory. I expect you're going to see green bars this week, and I think you'll see this divergence develop. Now, maybe this rally takes us possibly into the Fed meeting. Now, the inflation data is supposed to tick up. Watching what the stock market does, we'll be watching what Bitcoin does. Bitcoin is going to make a new high. I think it'll get a pullback. Alternative is that we've already peaked, we get a lower high, and then we get a deeper pullback and a larger ABC move that's already begun. I think that's less likely, but I'm still open-minded to it. I think it's more likely we're going to see the divergence develop here rather than confirming a lower high here. I think you'll get a higher high and form a divergence. The Bitcoin futures are up 3.30% or so. The Bitcoin ETF up about that same amount. We're getting the green bar already, though, with the Bitcoin ETF, IBIT, the IBIT ETF thing over here. You've had this peak over here at the December high. I think you're going to see something similar to this. Probably not a triple divergence, but probably a simple divergence. Over here we had a triple divergence develop, trying to get a bullish reversal of conditions. Today being up over 3% at the moment. Got to be able to close above the cloud. The bar is trying to flip back to blue here, and you're getting the green awesome oscillator bar here, even though you're not getting it yet with futures. And I talked about this in previous updates. IBIT ETF here with the awesome oscillator and the Bitcoin future. Same thing here. Starting to see some of my indicators, starting to see blue again. Got it right here. Coin's up more than 2%, bouncing out the 50-period moving average. I think you're going up to this trend line, and then I think you'll get a divergence with the 112,000 peak over here, and then I think you get the larger pullback to the 200-period moving average. The bull flag I told you about previously now playing out, and I think that's going to end up taking us to a new high. Now, as we tested the 50-period moving average, we got a reversal bar on Friday. I talked about this in my last update. We ended up closing that way. Now it's being confirmed with the bar flipping back to blue. Reversals over here only produced corrective moves. There was no topping signal over here. There doesn't have to be. There usually is, but not always. Turning points, and again, we saw it over at the December top, a topping signal and a reversal bar, topping signal, reversal bar over at the January top. We saw it down here at the bottom, calling the very day of the bottom. Do you see this? Got the reversal bar, and then the blue bar showed up right after that. We didn't have that over here at this top. And that's why I still think that we're going to new highs. Trend line or just overthrowing the trend line, but then I think we're going to peak. But a reversal bar here now being confirmed if we close with the blue bar by the end of the session, I think is likely. So I'm of the opinion we're going to make a new high, but then we're going to get a bigger pullback to the 200 here, to the 100 period moving average. Test them. Bitcoin constantly tests the 100 period moving average. It's under the 200 period here at this time. That's why I think we'll end up dropping back below 100,000 with the next sell-off, dashing the hopes of the herd, dashing the hopes of the moon boys, shaking out the weak hands and getting this large inverse head and shoulders, as I've talked about, that I think is likely setting up. I think we're going to see it set up, have Bitcoin move towards 150,000 area to see it play out. Again, Bitcoin's up nearly 2.5% as I'm making the video here. It's been up over 2%, down nearly 2.5%. Here we've seen bars go from blue to red to blue to red, again suggesting a sideways move, suggesting a topping process here, probably very similar to what we had in January where they go back and forth. After that peak, bars turned red. They remained red up until the bottom. We had a confirmed reversal right there and all the way up, and now we're getting bars going back and forth. I think you're going to get blue going into the trend line or overthrowing it, and then I think we'll flip back to red. completing wave one and getting a pullback for wave two and for the right shoulder. Well, the back and forth bars going from blue to red is suggesting longer trending, but we're in a topping process. I think that's very likely. Same thing here. Signals ended up turning bearish, bouncing off those 50 period moving averages, and now we're seeing signals try to turn back to bullish. So again, I think you're going to go make new highs. Is what I've been telling you with the sell-off. With today's rally, we're seeing a bunch of signals flipping back to bullish, causing me to believe, again, we're probably going to go make new highs. The scenario would be that we get the lower high and then another leg down. Already started the correction. I think it's more likely we get the divergence, as I've been showing you in recent videos. And today, signals flipping back to bullish, as I've been expecting. Now, I've been pointing out to you that I think we're going to go up and hit the upper Bollinger Band. We've had the contraction of the bands, and now in this rally, and we're turning back up again, suggesting we're going to go make a new highs. I think the contraction with the bands are suggesting that. And now we're seeing things flip back to bullish. You're getting a green bar here. You're getting a green background. You're getting blue going on here with the line there. Now, no topping signal over here. There doesn't have to be, but more often than not, there is. At the very bottom, we had a bottoming signal. At these tops over here, near the top, we had a topping signal there. And then right with the top, we had it. And back over here with the top. More often than not, you're going to see a topping signal or a bottoming signal, and we didn't get it here, causing me to believe we're price still going to get it. Probably we haven't topped. You know, we saw red, then green, and red. We're just kind of going sideways here. We're back to green. As I pointed out to you last time, I'm going to say it again here because I think it's important. I'm removing some of the indicators so you can see what's going on. Do you see this line right here representing the swing move? It turned green. We had green bars. We go into red bars, and it flattened out. It's gone back to neutral, going back to orange. Same thing we had happen over here. We pulled back. We saw it go to orange. We ended up going, and the Bollinger Bands contracted just like they're doing right now, and we ended up going higher. The Bollinger Band turned back up. We're going to see the same thing here. Likely going to push above the upper band, going into 114 to 116,000. Then I think you're going to see a topping signal. But we had the trend being bullish, and now this move to neutral, I think, is suggesting that we dipped just under it. I think we're getting back above it, which we are now, which I told you I thought would happen. I think that's suggesting new highs as we had over here. Here we bounced off this area. Here we came to just under it. Here, very similar to what we had over here with this counter trend. We came and overthrew it, went to neutral, but we still went to low. Actually, and started to turn bearish there, but then it created the double bottom pattern, and we got back up, went back to neutral, and eventually got this trend. So I think this is suggesting we're going to see new highs. That's why I keep talking about it. That's why I've been predicting this rally that we've had and the previous rally. I don't think the move is done yet. So far, I've been correct. Signals nailed the bottom, calling the day of the bottom. A lot of signals do it. Correctly predicted the rally. I got that right. I'm going to be right about this. I think we're going to top. And when we get back up there, here comes a breakout, just like back over here. And I think it's going to be another fake out. You have to digest these gains. We've already had a 50% move since I called the day of the bottom. I think we'll digest that by pulling back, getting the right shoulder for an inverse head and shoulders, and getting wave two. Now, we're getting the rally that I told you I thought would happen. And I told you I thought this rally would happen back up to this trend line right here. I believe these highs are pointing to the next high, or maybe we overthrow that level a little bit. Right now, that's pointing towards the 114,000 area. Maybe we overthrow it. We go to 115, 116,000, certainly possible. I think we're going to rally up. You're going to complete the diversions on the Asimov oscillator, on the RSI in the daily time frame, and then I think you're going to get this bigger pullback to the 200, the black line right there. Right now we're bouncing off the 50-period moving average, but don't lose sight of the bigger picture. Again, I'm looking for completing of wave one, and I believe that we've just completed this corrective move to wave four. Now, this is possibly a 5-leg push lower. If we get a lower high, you could have a 5-3-5 pattern, which would be a zigzag, we come up here, we get a lower high, and then we come down here to it. That's certainly possible. Don't want to rule that out. I think it's more likely we get a divergence and have a green awesome oscillator bar yet on the Bitcoin futures. We get it by the close, but we don't have it yet, and in this big rally back up. I think we're going to complete this wave one. I told you after the January peak, I think that was wave 3. I think this whole sell-off of 32% was wave 4. I think we're now in wave 5, and I think this is the first wave of wave 5, all likelihood. I think we have wave 1, 2, 3, 4, and now I think we're getting 5, and then I think we'll pull back. I think that will complete wave 1. We'll pull back and get wave 2, and then I think you get this massive inverse head and shoulders pattern that I've talked about. Now, we have the inverse head and shoulders pattern. If we hit 114,000, it would measure $40,000 from the low to the high, 74,000. You subtract that from 114,000, maybe we go a little bit higher. If it's 114,000 that we hit, you subtract the 74,000 from it, then you're looking at about 155,000, 156,000 minimum objective target for this pattern. I think that's going to be correct. I think we're going to pull back. I think you're going to get the right shoulder. It's going to dash hopes, but then I think you're going to get this move higher on into the summer and maybe on into the fall. Maybe it's here I've got it going into late August. On other charts, I have it going on into September. I think you're going to see this unfold in 5 waves, and I think that's going to take you to 150,000 to 175,000, maybe even higher. Know that I have a trend line in the weekly time frame that is my objective target. I think we're going to get this wave 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. This is what I think is happening. We will pull back to the 200 period moving average and drop below 100,000 again. Get the right shoulder. Let me adjust this here, but I believe that this whole thing, the 5 waves, will complete this wave 5 here and complete the cycle top. Now here's a weekly trend line. Now again, this trend line, this is a channel. This trend line is my target for Bitcoin right here. And it's a parallel trend line to the lower boundary. I've had this target for a very long time. Didn't reach it over here. I think we're going to still reach it. Then I think that will create a top for Bitcoin. The inverse head and shoulders measures to the 156,000 area. If we hit 114,000, it's a little bit higher. The low end of my target, the higher end, 175,000. Maybe we go on into September, October, and we go higher than 175,000. Maybe we go up to 180 or 190,000. But a number is not my target. A date is not my target. This trend line is my target. Whenever we reach that, I think Bitcoin will top. So I think we're about to put in a short-term top. I think we're going to go a little higher to the trend line, pull back at the wave 2, and then I think we're going to see this unfold over the summer or on into the fall. And then I think Bitcoin will begin to in the coming recession. A couple of things will take market and Bitcoin lower. Tensions in the Middle East are going to escalate with U.S. and Israel likely joining forces to deal with Iran's nuclear threat. Concerns about a regional war, I don't think that will happen. It's going to rattle markets. The other thing is we're going to see the yields likely rise to new highs. Jamie Dimon predicting a crack in the bond market. A collapse with treasuries, see the yields soar. 2 things, the bond market pricing in inflation about to tick back up or start rising, concerns about the debt levels in the U.S. can eventually lead to an inflation freakout. So these are the things that I think are going to happen when we see a Bitcoin top and when we see a stock market top, and then you're going to see a wrecking ball taken to Bitcoin. But right now I'm very, very bullish. I think we'll go a little higher, pull back, and I think we're going to be much higher going into the summer and on into the fall. But then I think Bitcoin's going to peak. Up here I'll get very, very bearish. Up here it's going to tell us, hey, we're going down. The rally's just getting started, and again, all the rest of the stuff that they say tops. And again, I'm bullish now. Accumulated my position. The lows sold into the rally, bought it back. 75% of it I sold into the rally and bought it back. So the rest of it as we go into that. And then I'm holding a longer term position where I'm going to ride this up over several months as well with my core position. But this is what I think is happening with Bitcoin. Other signals suggest a bottom here. We got that at the bottom here, and now bars are turning to green, and we're getting a bullish reversal signal here. Got to flip the cloud back to green, but I think you're going to just go a little higher and then top out. Another bottoming signal here. Again, I think you'll end up going in positive territory. You had a divergence give us this sell-off. I think you'll get another reference point of a divergence. Momentum gave us this sell-off going negative. We saw the divergences play out. We got warning signs. Now we're seeing some bottoming signals develop. We're seeing momentum turn back to bullish. I think you're going to come up here and again get a larger divergence on my indicators. We had the bottoming signals at the bottom. Momentum turned back to bullish. We've now seen momentum turn bearish, but it's flipped now back to bullish on Sunday, likely marking that the pullback is over. We're getting a bottoming signal there. We're getting a buy signal there on Saturday. We had one over here, went a little bit lower, but we're getting a couple of them here suggesting that the rally is going to resume. I think that's going to be correct, but the momentum line turning back to bullish and the bar turning back to green, suggesting we're going to go higher. Remember, I told you that we have this shaded area, and it's suggesting we're about to get a squeeze move. I think that's going to be to the upside to the 114 to 116,000 area on Bitcoin. Here we saw the bars turn red, but we weren't able to flip the cloud, and I think that buys us more time to go make new highs. After the December peak, bars turned red, tried to flip blue here, couldn't flip the cloud. They remained consistently red until we bottomed out. Absolutely incredible signals.